Ladies and gentlemen, you can doubt it, you can run from it, you can pretend it's not the truth, but as long as Magnus Carlsen joins a chess tournament, he continues to be the favorite to win it. This is day number 5 of the Zagreb Rapid and Blitz chess tournament in the Grand Chess Tour. It's the final day. 9 rounds of Blitz with the reverse colors that we had on day 4. Magnus currently leads the event with Gukesh, Duda, and others catching up to him. Today was a monster day for several of the players. I will take you through all the games as usual, and we're going to have a great time. All right, we're going to go through these games. We're going to crown a champion, and we are going to continue the story of the Magnus and Gukesh budding rivalry, both in actuality, in the headlines, and however else you want to describe it. Friendly reminder, go check out Chessly if you haven't already. If you don't want to do it, I don't really know what to tell you. You're not going to take your chess to the next level. We're going to kick things off with the game between Alireza Firouzja and Magnus. Now, by the way, this recap was a little bit late. First of all, I was running outside. And second of all, as I was filming the previous recap, I spilled coffee all over my table and my keyboard. So I have keys here that I have to reattach to my keyboard after this recap is over. And I'm currently driving myself kind of insane. So that's a little window into my life at the moment. Knight f3, knight c6, we have an Italian. Magnus plays an Italian with bishop to e7. Castles. This is a setup where white has good control over the center, and that's why white is considered very slightly better early on. Now, at this point, white has made as many improving moves as possible. Black has made as many improving moves as possible. Knights, bishops all out in their position. Rook ready to defend the center. And Magnus decides, all right, I'm going to take this knight on d5, and I'm going to put this knight back on e7. White has the bishop pair, but the bishop is not particularly useful. If white goes d4 trying to open the center, black will close the center. The bishops prefer an open position. The knights prefer a closed position. Alireza plays bishop to a7, targeting the rook. Rook a8, and grabs the pawn on b7. He basically is like, yo, Magnus, I don't believe you. I don't think this setup makes a whole lot of sense. I'm going to take the pawn on b7. I'm going to leave you with a weakness. I have a majority of pawns. We're going to trade. I'm going to make a pass pawn. I'm going to win the game. Magnus is like, okay, queen trade. Alireza is like, cool, bishop e3, knight d5, and the bishop goes back to the d2 square. So now we have the following positions. Both guys have 7 pawns. White has bishop pair. White is going to try to open the center. Black has a long-term weakness on a5. If that pawn falls, it's going to be a disaster to play this position. If you give me this position with the colors flipped, I would say Magnus would be a favorite against literally everybody in the world. This is just one of those positions. So Firouzja has to try to prove a little bit of his advantage, right? But Magnus, c5, like we teach everybody, when you have a dark-scored bishop, you should be putting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 7 of your pawns on the same color square as the bishop. In case you cannot detect, that is sarcasm. But somehow it works because the best player in the world gets to make his own rules. d4. As we teach people, when you have the bishops, you should play on an open board. Apparently, that's the wrong move. Pawn takes, e4. Knight c4. So now Magnus is all but guaranteed to get back one of the bishops. He's either attacking this guy, winning this pawn, or getting the light-scored bishop, and then coming in with his own target on a weakness. Totally reversing course of the game. Alireza says, no, I'm not going to give you either of my bishops. Magnus says, no problem, g6. Now your knight cannot enter f5, and your knight cannot come back. So you have a temporary inconvenience. Solved quite nicely by Alireza, playing the move g3. Very logical game. Both guys, black restricting the knight, white trying to bring the knight back. Knight d5. Okay, now you can't take on e4. There are various tactical reasons. Like knight c3 here, knight d2, which would be super inconvenient. That would be a really nasty fork. So Alireza plays rook c1. But suddenly, the bishops are completely walled in. Like, they are being dominated by knights and rooks, and you just don't feel like you have any advantage here. At this point, if Alireza doesn't take, he's simply going to allow a rook to arrive on b2. So, okay, no, he's really insisting on not giving away the bishop pair, but now Magnus grabs. And this is just bad news. These 2 pawns absolutely seal the position shut. Now Magnus just has to win a scramble, which he's been a little shaky in this tournament. A little shaky in these scrambles. Bishop g7, bishop c4, rook c4, okay. Rook c4, not d4. d4 is the best move. We go for this endgame. but Alireza goes passive. And this is one of those lessons that, you know, time and time again come up in my games as well. You can passively defend an endgame, or even a middle game, or you can actively defend. Give up the pawn on b2, go for check, defend the pawn from the other side of the board. Rook e4 here is the move, but with 13 seconds left, you kind of feel like if you allow rook b2, this pawn is going to queen, so you go here, but it's not good enough because black continues to hunt you down. Now Magnus, rook d3, gets in on d4, and now it's too late for active defense because you're going to lose all the pawns, right? You're going to be losing all these pawns very slowly. This move is given a double question mark. The computer preferred c3. White has 5 seconds on the clock. You know, he gets back into the game just for a brief second. He had to go knight e3 here. Like I said, Magnus not perfect in the scrambles, but good enough. Bishop d6. As good as you can get in blitz. The pawns come down. Alireza suffocating here. The 2 pawns too strong. If this was the only pawn remaining, it would have been a draw, because the bishop would not have been the right color of the corner, and that is actually a draw. This pawn is the difference maker. It's a win. Magnus wins a nice game. He called this the favorite game of his of the tournament. Now, meanwhile, Wesley So and Gukesh. I'm going to try to show games in this recap of all the most important players, like Magnus and Gukesh, because they're the most important players. But then we're going to cover games of Wesley, Nojabek, Duda, etc. All right? e4, e5. This is an Italian from Wesley. Bishop c5. Very slow, solid, collected. Keep in mind, yesterday Gukesh scored 1.5. He only had 1 win. It was later in the day against Fabiano Caruana. So today you're looking at Gukesh going, okay, let's see a couple of wins. Let's see if he can hang on to the top 3 finish, the podium finish, right? h6. Because like I keep saying, he won the Rapid, but it doesn't count as its own tournament, which in my opinion is rather unfortunate because he had a really great showing there. But d5, all good. You know, showing some of that fantastic Gukesh prep. Rook's in the middle, bishop looking nice, white looking for this tasty f5 square. This game never made it into a middle game. I mean, I suppose you can call this the middle game, but if you look at their time spent, they're still in the opening. They're not thinking. So now Wesley plays knight f5. Gukesh here spends 57 seconds because it's not a pleasant position. And again, there might be a move here in the, in the database, and there very well is. This position has actually been reached 27 times at master level, which is sort of crazy. Moves like knight e7 and bishop c5. The computer prefers king h8 as well. But after a minute, because you only get that in blitz, as you see there, queen e6, which walks into this. Gukesh saw that, shockingly. He is the world champion after all. He obviously had something in mind, but Wesley goes, sorry, I don't get it. What is the idea? Because I'm putting pressure, and I've now activated my bishop, and this does not look tasty for black. For black, this looks absolutely dangerous, and it is very dangerous. Gukesh, kind of baits him forward and drops back with the queen. But look at that, 2 minutes spent on queen e6, queen d7. And Wesley's like, the position smells like tactics. I smell brilliant moves. Kaboom. Whenever you have a position where something is only protected by the king, you're always looking at stuff there. King g7. Bad news. Bishop takes h6. A 1-2 lethal combo from Wesley. If you take, the craziest thing is it's a very straightforward attack on the king, and you can't protect it. When the king is left to fend for himself against the queen, it's bad news. King to f8. I'm not even going to take the knight. I'm going to go here. That's mate. You're going to have to sack, go down a queen, and then you're not going to be able to defend this. King e7, de, black resigns. Wesley with a lethal 1-2 punch straight out of the opening. Bishop f5, knight h5, bishop h7, and you are not going to stop this attack. This still needed very nice technique. Rook e3, look at this. Rook e3, rook g3. Look at my guy, Wesley So. Wesley's so freaking awesome. Knight f6 check. Knight grabs on e4. This is falling. Bishop f6 and queen h8 is a mate incoming. What a beautiful game from Wesley. Gukesh still struggling on day 2, but we're gonna come back to him. He actually had some very nice games later in the day. It was actually Wesley. Really was more of the story. Wesley woke up on the last day and was like, he looked in the mirror and he was like, I'm Wesley So. And good things started happening. More on Wesley later. Now, this game I haven't even spoiled anything, frankly. I don't know what happened. Like somehow all the boards reset on the events page. I don't know why this happened. Magnus Gukesh, right? Just played in Norway. Magnus slammed the table. Just played in the rapid portion of this tournament, where, you know, Magnus, before the event, said that Gukesh hasn't done enough to prove that he can contend at the highest level in rapid and blitz. Magnus said he would presumably be one of the weaker players, presumably, and Gukesh not only dominated the rapid, he even beat Magnus. Then they show up for the blitz. Is Gukesh going to complete the sweep? No. He loses, and he has a rough day. The final game that these two are going to play against each other, I don't know when the next time they're going to play each other, man. I have no idea. I don't know when's the next time. It's a Spanish. It's a Berlin from Magnus. He counterattacks the pawn. White can play an anti-Berlin, which is what Magnus did against Gukesh. But Gukesh not only plays into the Berlin, he doesn't play into the endgame line. He doesn't play Rook E1. He plays this, which is the infamous variation that ends in a forced draw. This draw is so popular over the last 5 years. Hikaru has played this draw. Magnus has played this draw. The boys don't play a game. They don't play a game. Who is to blame for this? I don't know. Because, you know, in the Berlin, White doesn't have to enter the Berlin. You kind of always blame, you know, but Black doesn't have to play the Berlin, right? So it's like, it's kind of this cat and mouse. Now, the reason they didn't want to play against each other is because Magnus just wants to win the tournament. For him, draws are going to clinch, you know, the result. For Gukesh, he wants to keep scoring points as well. He wants a podium finish. Maybe they also both don't want headlines. Maybe there's psychological pressure. I have no idea. I don't know, but they don't play a game. I was shocked. I actually couldn't believe this happened. All right, we move on. Now, Nodirbek Abdusatorov. Like, Wesley So had a fantastic second day of blitz. My guy, Nodirbek, woke up today, looked in the mirror and went, my name is Nodirbek Abdusatorov. That's all. And Chad Irbek Nod Abdusatorov showed up today. At some point, well, we're going to look at this game first. E4. Magnus went for Sicilian. Magnus respects Nodirbek a lot. He's very complimentary of Nodirbek. He's very complimentary of Firouzja as well, and a lot of the younger players. He likes their fighting spirit. Magnus plays an opening he has played his entire life. Magnus virtually invented this opening. Not really, it's invented by Sveshnikov. Is the Sveshnikov Sicilian. It's the opening he plays the most. Bishop E2 is a side variation. Black plays A6, Bishop E6. Now the position kind of resembles a Kalashnikov variation, sort of. Knight C4. Knight D4, okay, a little bit of a strange line. White doesn't allow the bishop to get captured, and then he's going to probably put the knight on E3, controlling the D5 square. Also, for Black, it was like somehow better to... Yeah, there's like a tactic here on E4, and then you can play D5. Magnus keeps more pieces on the board. White gets a nice bind, and this is a dream position for White in the Sicilian defense. In the Sicilian, if White dominates the D5 square and has a light squared bishop, like Black's light squared bishop is gone. Usually it's on D7 or E6. White is just going to have an easy game. He's going to control the queen side. He's going to play F4 whenever he's ready, and then start a king side attack. Black is not going to have a good time. Magnus goes for dynamic complications. He gives up the pawn on E4 and is like, well, okay, I'm down a pawn, but at least I'm going to get some activity. It was a calculated decision, with the negative being that he is now a pawn down. Knight to F5 is mate. Magnus doesn't blunder it. Queen F4. Nodirbek smells blood. He smells blood. He grabs a second pawn. Magnus plays Knight E4 looking for some counterplay. And now if you look at the graph from this point, it is basically Nodirbek climbing a mountain. It is just going uphill. Knight back to E3. C3 solid. Up 2 pawns. Trying to poke a hole. Now he has 2 pass pawns. I don't care if you're Magnus Carlsen. You can even give Magnus Stockfish in this position. I'm not sure he's gonna... he probably will be able to defend it if he's looking at Stockfish. But he's a human. He's not looking at Stockfish. He's just down 2 pawns, and even if he wins that one, the pawn's going. The pawn's going, and this is a winning endgame because Black will have to be very passive. White is going to be really massive, and you're not going to be able to defend this. Rook A1, Rook B7. This is just over. Why is this over? If your rook is stuck protecting the hydraulic press, it's just a matter of time. Even if it's not a matter of time, even if Black gets the king here, you know what you have to... You're going to put your king in the middle. Because when Black wins your pawn, you will just walk in and eat all the other pawns. This game is just going on for a few more moves out of formality. Magnus is making sure that Nodirbek doesn't you know, have a breakdown at the board. Rook b6, total domination here. e5, good defending from Magnus, who tries to create some complications, but the pawns are simply too weak. It's just a matter of time. Lethal, ruthless. I mean, there's not enough words to describe this. There's a reason they call him, you know, Uzbek Fighter. I think that was his username. Might have been Uzbek Tiger. He's worthy of all of those usernames. 98% accuracy win over Magnus Carlsen. This was one-way traffic. Nordirbeck, on the second day of the Blitz, he lost the last round. But between round 16 and 26, this man won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. He had 8 wins and 3 draws. This man played 11 rounds, and in those 11 rounds, he scored 9.5 out of 11. I mean, when Nordirbeck got hot, he pulverized. Like, he just woke up in the last day of the tournament. And then in the last round, he ended up losing to Firouzja. But Nordirbeck, as you can see there from the screen, dude, he was cooking. Look at the screen underneath me. It's just ones. It's all ones. Ones, draw, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. He beat everybody. He literally beat everybody, including Magnus. He straight up beat every player in the tournament. Crazy. So when Nordirbeck woke up finally, he was really on fire. You know who also ultimately woke up? You see what this thing is doing? I don't know why this keeps happening. Why does it keep doing this? It keeps resetting the position. Whatever. You know what? We're gonna obviously end with a Magnus game as well. Gukesh did not get 1.5 on the final day of action. You know, Duda had a pretty solid performance, all things considered. He had a really good result in the Rapid. He was quite solid in the Blitz. But Gukesh was not going to just collapse. He was not going to show up on the final day. He obviously was going to have a better performance. And I'm happy to report it to you. This was a very patient game between both players. You kind of see them both doing a little bit of nothing. And then Gukesh is like, look, I'm not going to do nothing. D5. We have to open up the center. We have knight e3. And then Gukesh is like, yo, what is well, all right, let's keep the tension. Duda's still keeping the tension. Gukesh also keeping the tension. It's like the position is in a staring contest, you know? First one to blink loses. F4. F4 is crazy. DE4. DE4. Gukesh takes everything. And now Gukesh is like, are these pawns really... Are they scary? Or are they terrible for white, right? Knight g6 is a nice idea, bringing the rook into the game, and queen long-term. Take. And I think at this point, Duda was like, yo, I don't think these pawns are assets. I don't think these pawns are assets. Even though g5 is given a question mark, it's still -1. I'm not so sure my king is actually that safe here. Pawn takes g5, Gukesh. Queen d6, intermezzo. Now the king is shaken. Pawn takes g5. Hey, there's even this idea in the law. There's this idea. There's this idea. Like, there are mating ideas. Knight h5, knight e4. There's just ideas of brewing in the position. And dude is down to 45 seconds. What I have learned playing 3+2 blitz, these guys are playing 5+2, but 3+2 blitz, you got to choose one. Bad position or low time. When you have bad position and low time, you are not going to be able to defend yourself. Pawn takes, and just a ruthless move by Gukesh. Ruthless. G4 is so brutal. If you play pawn takes G4, you open up the H file. King F7, Rook H8, the idea that I showed you. If you take with the bishop, then E4 is controlled, right? So, and even knight G4 is possible. Yeah, King F7. Absolutely ruthless. Where was this Gukesh for the last couple of days? Like, this man really, you know, and the same way Nordirbeck had a really rough first day, sometimes you just need the reps. You just need the reps. It's difficult to adjust. Rook D1, the king doesn't have an escape square. Rook D4 blocks the diagonal. Rook E1 check. And you have to lose the queen. And the craziest part is, I'm not even going to take the queen. I'm going to go check first. Then I'm going to take... And then I'm going to go bishop e5, or, I don't know, one of 900 different moves that wins here. Gukesh absolutely eviscerated Duda in this game. And Duda was in second place for the majority of the tournament. Dude, this was great. This was an amazing game. Amazing game. I wish we got a little bit more of this Gukesh throughout the tournament. Oh my goodness, my nose is so itchy. I don't know what's happening to me. I'm going to finish this game. It's been a stressful time. I need to make sure my keyboard isn't completely broken, and I got to reattach these keys. Just, you know, it's crazy times out here in the Gotham household. You know where it's a nice time? Probably in the Carlsen household. He played the modern in so many different games. Šarić, by the way, previous 2,700 rated player. Šarić, all things considered, had a fantastic tournament. He only lost one game in the Rapid. And his blitz was, I mean, he had some nice battles there too. Look at this position. I mean, this is how you know this is the last round of the tournament. You know, you play a crazy opening. In the last round, you're kind of relaxed. You know, you're ready to go home. Castles. Magnus grabs the bishop. You already know. I mean, this bishop is going to have a blast on this diagonal, you know, or on this diagonal. It's going to be real fun. Pawn takes. Knight, just beautiful positioning. G4 under ramps. Bishop H6. Just maybe you go C6, B5. An easy game for C6. I don't even care that it's a question mark. I thought it was a good move. Magnus thought it was a good move. There's Queen E7. There's Bishop G4. It's all the moves that I'm telling you. It's all the moves. He's going to put the bishop on G4. He's going to play pawn to C6. This bishop will probably come alive as well. The computer evaluates this position as equal. Computer doesn't get it. Right? Look, Magnus gets literally every piece to every square. When you play this position as white, you just feel like all of black's pieces are on the correct squares, and none of white's pieces are on the correct squares. It feels like white doesn't really know what he's doing. He ends up grabbing a free pawn. That is a free pawn. And then you realize your shoes are tied together. You can't move a piece. You can't defend your rook with the other rook. And if you play rook to d2, there's some form of a tactic that's gonna, that's gonna win you the game. I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of bishop takes e6. Like rook d2, bishop e6. And if you take with the knight, the bishop takes the pawn and then wins the rook. So Šarić plays rook d4, bishop e6 is now possible, and white doesn't have a way to defend the position. I mean, it's just kind of insane that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, all of them in some way are interacting with one another, and all of them lose the game when they are interacting. Rook d4, bishop e6. If you take with the bishop, I have bishop takes f4, also g5. Actually, I think was even cleaner. Actually, g5 is like totally clean. We have bishop f4. And Magnus just goes for this endgame where he must have felt that he was better. He had a total win here with g5. That would have been a nice way to end. But he himself said, my form is not great. I'm playing a little bit shaky. But it's the endgame. It's the endgame. It's the last round. King h4. It looks like white is defending himself. They both have 4 pawns. Now black is even down a pawn. But rook f1, rook f2. These pawns are going to be lethal. They are faster than these pawns. And not only that, these pawns are actually under target. So Šarić might have had some chances to hold it. We get into a pawn race, but one guy is winning the pawn race. One guy is just 3 squares away from queening. The other guy is 1, 2, 3, 4, and he's not even queening. So black is going to win this race. Šarić went king e3 and just resigned. It's kind of crazy that, Magnus can stumble out of the opening with a totally winning position, autopilot his way into this endgame, and just go king. The king is going to go hunt the pawns down. And that's what the king did. And then he's going to win anyway because, last round of the blitz, you kind of relax. So the storyline of the final day, as always, is Magnus Carlsen wins the tournament. 22.5 points. 3rd place finish in the Rapid with 10. He was 4 points behind Gukesh, and he ends the tournament 3 points ahead of him. So a full 7-point blitz turnaround. He outscored him by a margin of 7 points in the blitz. He's still the best blitz player in the world. I really wish that world championship split just never... I wish he just won the blitz title outright, because then there wouldn't have been any of these narratives. That's not what happened. The world we live in is the split title, which a lot of people, including myself, I've talked about this, not so thrilled about. Still, though, monster performance. Still the #1 rated player in the world in blitz. Other storylines, Wesley So, 2nd place overall. Wesley, in the blitz, only half a point behind Magnus, and Nurdirbek Abdusattorov lost in the fray of the overall standings because he got 6th. Had he won the last round, he would have been up here. He would have been 5th, tied for 4th, half a point out of 3rd. In the Rapid, Nurdirbek was in last place. He came from last place in the Rapid to almost middle of the pack and almost 4th place, had he just not lost the final round. So he was a beast. The overall blitz standings, Gukesh 5.5, couple of guys with 6. Prague also really struggled in the blitz. Fambi didn't have as good of a result as he would have liked. But ultimately 19.5 to 18 right here. Big split. Congrats to Wesley, monster performance. Šarić also listed underdog of the tournament, but he had a very strong showing. Yeah, Prague won't be too happy. Fabi won't be too happy. But let's put it this way. People have to be in the bottom. You look at this field, you're like, I don't know who's going to be in the bottom. But this is your final standings. Gukesh gets a very clutch draw in the last round finishes on the podium. Magnus still the man to beat in Blitz. Gukesh, though, is the man to beat in Rapid. Like, oh my goodness. I want to see more Rapid from Gukesh. It is such a travesty that in the chess world, we don't have an agreed upon set of tournaments. Right now is Wimbledon in tennis. You know who's going to play. You know what tournaments lead up to tennis. You know what tournaments are going to happen after Wimbledon. We don't know that in chess. Like right now, the next thing, we have a freestyle coming up. Gukesh is not even playing. Then we have like a esports World Cup. We got some other stuff. I don't know. I mean, it's just a shame we don't see these guys play against each other consistently enough in Rapid and Blitz and Classical. I don't know the next time Magnus is going to play Gukesh. I can't think of it right now. Maybe you'll think of it in the comments section. I wish they would have played that game out, but they didn't. Magnus wins the tournament. Wesley So second place. Strong finish. Gukesh third place, but unbelievable performance in the Rapid. Very exciting stuff. Many headlines were made. Coffee was spilled on keyboards. Check out Chesley. Drop the King's Indian course. Drop the Rui Lopez. We've got some more courses coming out on tactics. We have courses coming out for beginners. Openings courses to come, like the Queen's Gambit, for example, the French defense as well. And that is all I have for you today. You know the drill. Get out of here.